Well, here we are, ladies and gentlemen, on the home stretch to Goblin Slayer's finale. 12 episodes so far is what is the total run of Goblin Slayer. Although there is an episode 10 and a half, which I'm still not sure if it's a recap episode or if it's like a interlude story that has nothing to do with the main story. But I guess we'll have to look and see. So in episode 8, it was shown that Goblin Slayer is alive and well. And then in episode 9, they pretty much finished up their mission and cleared out that one hovel full of goblins and found a portal to what looked like the Green Moon. Because in the background, in the mirror through the portal, you could see the Red Moon, and it was a lot closer to in terms of the sky.
All the rocks and stuff looked green.
Yeah, so I think
there were lots of goblins.
Yeah, so I think it's safe to say that the Green Moon is where goblins are coming from, which is crazy when you think about it, because that's just insane.
They're aliens.
They're aliens. It's like I can see it now. That one crazy guy on History, instead of aliens, it's goblins.
Yeah.
That are aliens. So, gosh, I remember when that meme started to circulate, like, really heavily. Like, everyone was just like, aliens or $5 footlongs. God. So,
Man, now I want Subway.
sorry.
It's all good.
Well, they do have a 24-hour one. It's in the middle of an absolute nightmare of a place that is known for rude nurses and, people who are just like ultra pissy if they don't get their food. It's like, yeah, this place wasn't put here for your convenience. It was put here for customers. If it was just for employees, then it would be back in a place
hallway where people.
Yeah, back where only employees can access.
Yeah.
So cut the shit, lady. I mean, you're not the most important person in the hospital.
Put there more for the convenience, I believe, of people who are at the hospital to see, like, their
family
loved ones
members
who are sick and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, but instead we get some nurse who, as soon as we get up to the counter and I'm about to give my order, it was after we were talking to him. He couldn't do anything while we were talking to him. He couldn't start, like, prep on another sandwich because he was wrapping the other person's sandwich up when we were talking, and then all of a sudden this woman just goes, "Could you hurry up?" To which my immediate response was to look back and just be like, "Really? Really?" And which, I was just like, "Oh, well, Miss Thing here is so important. I'm just going to give her my place in line. Here you go." No.
She's just like, some of us have to get back to work, and I'm like, you should probably pack your lunch then.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was just like, you know what? I don't need this. So I just backed up, and I just was like, I don't need this. And it was one of those things that could have handled better, but at the same time, it's just like, I don't think anyone deserves to be like anyone deserves to, be harangued like that over a fucking Subway sandwich. By a nurse, of all people. I mean, come on.
It's just a very entitled feeling compliment on her part. It's kind of real fucking annoying. Ben was like, "No, don't say anything, don't say anything." And I'm like, "No, fuck that bitch." I was like, "Nate can say whatever he wants to that bitch."
Yeah, and me, what I should have done is I should have just looked back at her and just like, I should have leaned against the counter, just like, I can't decide what I want. Oh, God. Oh, God. Okay. Maybe I should get... No, I had that last time.
That would have been awesome.
And that woman would have probably just had a coronary, and I'd have just been like, calm down, okay? Just, like... Anywho, we got an episode of Goblin Slayer.
Funny if Quinn was with us and could have been like, dramatic bitch, she'll be okay.
Yeah, and she had this look on her face, just like this, like, and I'm looking at that, and I'm just like, that is a textbook resting bitch face right there. I mean, there you go. So, anyway, we got an episode of Goblin Slayer queued up here. Let's get it on screen, and let's give it a watch. Oh, there we go, full screen. It'll probably do the refresh thing, which if it does... yeah, there's that voice crack again. Which if it does, then we'll deal with it. There it is.
子供の頃、大きくなったら冒険者になるのだと思っていた。村を出て人々を苦しめる魔物たちを倒し。手には行かないよ。僕たちが世界を救わなきゃ。たとえ勇者にはなれなくとも。
うるさいな。街でもどこでも行ってくればいいだろう。なんで怒るの？怒ってねえよ。怒ってる。
I'm not mad. Yes, you are.
I'm not yelling!
What a rare sight to see him walking around without his armor. Or at least his helmet.
Oh.
Did you really have to focus that low, cameraman?
Anyway, what do you expect?
True, true. Hey, at least she didn't almost throw herself out the window. It's like the first time she did that. I just had a thought. I remember a friend of mine who's seen this already. I talked to him about it, and it's just like, you know, I wish I could swap places with Goblin Slayer in certain aspects. I'm like, why is that? He's like, why can't I have a big busty, beautiful farm girl, who cooks for me and does all this shit for me? And I'm like, because this is reality. He's like, I know, and it sucks. And I'm like, yeah, it kind of does.
しません。
見かけないが新顔か？
いや。
するってと休暇が何かできたのか？
そんなところだ。
だよな。
Nobody knows what he looks like.
冒険者やって稼ぐってやつなら今都の方に行くもんな。
Ow. Face plant into a great sword. Ow. It's a broken nose. Don't think about it too much. Don't think about it too much.
それで要件は？
お仲間たくさんだね。
ああ。
面白い。もう待ち合わせしてるならそう言いなさいよ。私ごちそうになっちゃってもいいのかな。
別に構わない。
遠慮は無用ですぞ、お嬢さん。
Oh yeah.
そうそう。
Oh, of course, cheese, queso.
じゃあ遠慮なく。
Look how content he is with that cheese.
禁止禁止。
それは困るな。
でしょ？ちゃんと懲りてくださいね。
No more adventuring. That would be bad. Yeah, I know, right?
お仲間さん、みんないい人たちだね。いつか。
なんだ？
なんでもない。
そうか。
Say something to him, girl. He won't know otherwise. He's as thick as a $2 steak. You have to literally hit him over the head with it in order for him to get the point. Great, a drinking contest between a dwarf and an elf. This'll end well. Drink up, jerks. Oh, she's gonna have a massive hangover the next day.
Yep.
Meanwhile, the dwarf's probably gonna wake up and be like, that was a good night.
おかしなやつだ。油で汚れるぞ。
いいもん。どうせ洗濯しちゃうし、体も洗うし。
そうか。
そうだよ。それが冒険者であろうと、 勇者であろうと、たとえ死ななくてもゴブリンを殺せなくなる日が必ず訪れる。こんな日々は長くは続かない。
Well,
その時どうすればいいのか、それは誰にも。
Oh shit.
No. That's a shit ton of footprints.
Mm-hmm.
それは誰にも。
Oh shit. So that's not good.
Nope.
That can't be good. All right. Let's see if there's a after credits. Come on. Come on. And
I don't think there is.
nope, there is not. So, all right.
That episode felt a little bit fillery.
Well, fillery, yes, but at the same time, it still pressed the plot forward in one gigantic way right there at the end.
Yeah.
Because the one place that he values more than any place else, his home, the farm girl, her uncle, and
I felt like he should move them to an inn in the town for a few days.
I would do that too. I'd just be like, I need you to come with me real quick.
And then he should home alone that house up. What for goblins?
Just build all the traps.
He should actually make like a cardboard cutout of like her and the uncle, so the goblins think they're still there on the inside, like, in his armor. You know, it's like.
That'd be ridiculous, but I'd still find that funny as hell. I don't know why, but I'd find that funny.
That'd be great.
So, all right. In this episode, we also kind of got a sort of a good idea of, how people perceive the Goblin Slayer. People don't perceive him as the Goblin Slayer; they perceive his armor as the Goblin Slayer, because that armor is synonymous with Goblin Slayer, whereas just him, people don't know it's him. That's a good way of hiding your identity. That's almost like H2O Delirious levels of hiding your identity, because nobody knows what Delirious looks like. They've only heard his voice a few times, and he's I imagine he looks like a shorter, not shorter, but like a taller, less Italian version of Joe Pesci, or Danny DeVito, either one. That's what I imagine, but
nobody that I've ever seen a face reveal of has ever looked anything like what I imagine they looked like, except for Jaden. It's like Jaden looks almost exactly what I figured she would look like.
Well, she draws herself in animations.
Yeah.
So you had an idea.
Well, yeah, you have ideas from other people like that sometimes too, though, and then they don't look as similar as you think they would.
Well, I know that Delirious probably has black hair because his player models in games that he makes often has black hair. Even though they are often wearing a hockey mask or clown makeup or something like that, they almost always have black hair.
Yeah.
So either he's got black hair or has had black hair. I mean, he might be bald by now for all we know. I mean, heck, if people can go bald by the time they're 30, heck, Goblin Slayer's pretty much like gray-headed. I mean, gray-headed, or what? What would you call his? Would you say he's like gray-haired?
Yeah, it looks like he has gray hair.
Yeah, even though he's nowhere near as old enough to really have gray hair. It's just it's just natural hair color with him.
Oh, there's like a lot of like anime girls that are like not old that have like bleach white hair too.
Yeah, and then there's also the common anime trope of that you see all these women with different colored hair and all this and all that, and they have such Japanese names, but then, it's just like, but naturally, most Japanese women do not have like blonde hair or red. Well, I've seen some Japanese women who have blonde hair and blue eyes, and they're like almost 98% Japanese. It's just like an ancestor a few generations back just so happen to have blonde hair and blue eyes. Like, it can spring up. It's very rare. Very, very rare, because black hair is dominant over blonde hair, and brown eyes are dominant over blue eyes. In terms of genes, anyway. I mean, because how the spectrum usually operates. If you have two people with the recessive genes, and then the recessive, like by some miracle, like the one in, like, I think it's like 1 in 16th of a chance of them having kids, would have more European features, like the blonde hair or the blue eyes or something like that. It'd be very, very rare. And that's one thing I love about genealogy. It's just you heard about that Nigerian couple who had a baby that turned out to be white, right?
No.
Yeah, it turns out this Nigerian couple, way back when, I think it was like 2004, 2005. It was one of the first viral videos, or first viral stories I ever saw. And anyway, what happened was this husband and wife, they were full Nigerian. Their family had been Nigerian for years and years and years, and generation after generation. All of a sudden, the wife popped out a white baby. The baby popped out, and it was pretty damn pale by comparison. And the husband accused his wife of infidelity.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I bet he was like,
yeah. Well, he accused his wife. He accused his wife of infidelity, and as did everyone else. I mean, that was the natural reaction. And then, when the wife begged him to do a test, do a blood test to show that he was the father, turns out 100% yes, he was the father. And they found out that the reason for it is that way, way back when, I think it was like 7 generations back, the woman had a white ancestor. And thus, it laid dormant in in her genes, and then by some miracle, boom, it just came into fruition, and thus the baby was white, and it was unbelievable when I saw it. I'm just like, no friggin' way. And then there's also this other couple. They had a set of twins. They had fraternal twins. One turned out to be a red-headed white girl, and the other one turned out to be a curly-haired black girl. And it was like unbelievable. I was like, whoa. You can actually look up these stories. I mean, that's the strange thing about genetics, man. You never know what's going to happen sometimes. Sometimes it's a good sometimes it's a good thing, and sometimes it's a bad thing.
Genetics is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get.
Thank you there, Forrest Gump. And that ties into, like, genetics can be a good thing, and also genetics can be a bad thing. People can have disabilities, like with Forrest Gump. Forrest Gump, he was a simple man. He was mentally inept, which is a sad thing, especially considering how gifted he was with physically, and also how earnest of a person he was. And then and that's what I love. That's one thing that scares me about the way the world is going and everything, is that more and more we're discovering. You've heard of like genetic engineering, right? Mm-hmm. Getting rid of disease and getting rid of. Actually, they've talked about doing getting rid of aging by through gene therapy. How they can pretty much re-up your genes to where you can live an X amount of time longer. Because aging is pretty much the physical breakdown of the human genetics. It's pretty much just like a pure breakdown of it, because we have the means to, like, heal ourselves, but over time it wears down. Just like you break your leg enough times, you're gonna lose that leg.
Yeah.
You break your toe enough times, you're going to have that toe amputated. And
it's like once your brain exists for like such a long amount of time, it starts to eventually deteriorate, and so
yeah,
you'll start to lose your mental functions you had when you were younger when you get old enough. And it's like what I guess like how Alzheimer's happens to a lot of people, it seems like. But I have heard recently they apparently are making some breakthroughs on Alzheimer's, and they apparently there's somebody at some point, like, I don't know exactly how this would work, but it said something about a vaccination for it, and I was like, it doesn't sound like something you could vaccinate against, but
you'd be surprised.
Who knows? I don't know how it would work exactly.
Originally they thought
something like that.
They thought smallpox was incurable, and look at what happened. We have a smallpox cure now. Same thing with it. I know that's a different type of ailment, because smallpox is a virus.
Yeah.
Whereas Alzheimer's is a degenerative genetic disease. Whereas smallpox is a viral disease, and the treatments aren't going to be the same. However, as time has marched forward, we've attained the technology to where we're able to do these amazing things. And I don't want to pretend like there's so many people out there who are just so over dramatic about everything. It's just like, oh, the world is worse now than ever. It's like, oh yeah, how's that smallpox you don't have, or that polio you don't have, or those quarantines, those regular quarantines that you have to do because the kid down the street caught a batch of the Spanish flu. I mean,
I'd actually let myself get into like a mental state recently where I was kind of like, man, the world is just a fucking garbage can and shit, you know. And then, like, at the end of the year, I actually saw someone made a post, and they were like, here's a big list of good things that happened last year for anybody who feels like it was a bad year, you know? And, like, a lot of that, like, after reading a lot of that list, I was like, you know what? Maybe it's not as fucking bad as I thought it was.
It's not. I've learned to accept this, that, yeah, bad things can happen. That's life. I mean, bad things are expected to happen in life. I mean, yeah, we lost Stan Lee. That's a fucking travesty. He was 95 years old.
Yeah, it's like, while it's very sad, it's kind of like I was sort of expecting that to be any time, you know?
Yeah, and it's just people are, you know, I saw this one guy's like, you know, Steer was the worst. We lost Stan Lee. We lost this person. We lost that person. I'm like, yeah, well, Stan Lee was 95.
People are like, why is everybody good dying? And it's like, well, it's everybody from when we were kids, you know? They're getting old now.
Well, people die. Yeah. That's what's expected. I mean, people die.
It's just the fact that I think that our generation is taking it harder because they're not realizing that as we grow older and we have learned about more people, the more the people that we are aware of are now passing away, rather than when we were younger, you know, we weren't aware of all the people that were passing away. Because, I mean, just as many people were passing away when we were younger, because I think me and Andrew looked it up. We were just curious. We were like, what's some people who died, like, back when we were younger, you know, like... Because it seems like, you know, since the 90s and the 2010s, like, you know, it's increased on, like, the famous people that are dying. And we were looking it up, and it's like, no, actually, a lot of famous people died in the 90s.
Yeah, it's just we weren't aware.
Well. It's just, yeah, more people we weren't necessarily aware of at the time because we were kids.
Well, I remember the first death that really shocked me, like, in terms of someone that I revered very highly, Dimebag Darrell. Yeah, I remember I was in high school.
I wasn't into Dimebag and Pantera at the time, but when I heard about it, I was like, what the fuck? Yeah. Because it's just like, I was like, whoever did that's a fucking piece of shit, you know? It's like, I'm not even like a fan of the band, but fuck that dude.
Yeah, Nathan Gale was a...
Because I could just imagine if that happened to like a band I actually liked, you know? So I was like pissed off for the Pantera fans, even though I didn't really listen to them at the time.
Yeah, I personally just... When I heard that happen, I almost fell out of my chair because I'd recently wanted to go watch Damageplan live because, you know, I'd listened to their new album, Newfound Power, and it was actually pretty damn good. And to hear Dime and Vinny back making music again after being on such a long hiatus after the breakup of Pantera, I mean, it was good to hear, man, and I was so happy for them. And then one night at the Alrosa Villa changed everything. Yeah. And actually, a friend of mine was talking to me about it, and I was just like, you gotta be kidding. How? What happened? And then he told me what happened. Someone jumped up on stage, killed like 4 other people, but before that, shot Dime in the back of the head 6 times. And I was just like, oh my God. And then I watched the Behind the Music that came out, I think, 5 years after Dime's death, from VH1, and it was, and they were talking about, it was, Vinny, and I believe it was Cat Brooks. It was Vinny, Cat Brooks, and Barnes. They called him Wires because he was like the head roadie. They were all talking about what happened. It was just like, when the guy ran across the stage, they thought it was just like a fan coming up there to like headbang and all that. And then when Vinny heard the gunshots, he stopped playing and wanted to get over there, but Cat came up from behind the drum riser, pulled him back behind the curtain, and just said, "Run, run, run, go!" And then Cat tried to charge the guy and take the gun away from him, and then Cat got shot 3 times and amazingly didn't die. And then Barnes managed to get around the stage where they had Dime on the floor, and Barnes was the first one to see the damage.
Yeah.
Dime's face wasn't there anymore.
Yeah.
Which is just fucking. And then
it's shitty.
And then when you hear Vinny like sum it all up at the end of it all, he's just like, it was like a bad dream. None of it felt real. None of it. And it wasn't until when I woke up the next morning that everything just like fell squarely in my lap, and I just didn't know what to do. And it just, and he had the phone call with Rita, Dime's fiance at the time, had the call with her and told her that, my brother's dead. And he said that, and he felt like he didn't know what to do. He was just like, couldn't cry or anything. And I keep going back to when I first heard it, and it was just like, damn. It just goes to show you the effect that the internet has had on a lot of people, is like exposure to different things, exposure to other artists, exposure to, like, if not for the internet, we would not be experiencing this anime right now.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be experiencing this. We wouldn't be experiencing all the stuff that we're doing right now. People would not be aware of us, wouldn't be aware of our channel or anything we're doing.
I don't think I'd be learning languages and...
No.
Still a lot of things. Like, yeah, it's crazy shit.
Oh, it is.
I was going to say, the first person that I actually remember dying that affected me was probably Mitch Hedberg.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I had just recently,
Hetty.
Yeah, became a fan of him like a few years before. And I was like, yeah, he's like my favorite comedian, he's like really unique. And like, I would always talk to people about him when we talked about comedy and stuff. And then all of a sudden he was gone, and I was just like, what the fuck, man?
Yeah.
Like, it had to be the guy that I'll like the most. Like, god damn it.
Yeah, there was actually someone who died way before that I didn't know was dead, and my dad told me that he died. I was just like, what? John Candy.
Yeah.
Yeah, John Candy. I think it was like almost near the year 2000. Me and my dad were watching some funny movies. We were like watching The Great Outdoors. We were watching. We watched a bunch of classic like 90s comedies, and also we watched Uncle Buck. And my dad was just like, you know why you don't see him anymore, son? And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, John Candy. And I'm like, why? It's like, because he's dead. And I'm like, what? I couldn't believe it. And then, okay, another comedian that blew me away, that made me laugh so much, but when he died, I was just like, whoa, was Chris Farley. I don't know, you're probably too young to remember him.
Who did you say?
Chris Farley?
Oh, yeah, Chris Farley. Yeah, I remember him.
Yeah, 1997, dude.
Yeah, because I actually remember when he died.
Yeah, I was 9 when I heard about him, and it was just like, whoa, man, like, what the hell? And you found out that he was actually sad the most of the time.
Yeah. This was one that's like, I found this band through Spotify, and they're a Japanese band called Pay Money to My Pain.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, dude, this is a really awesome band, you know. And I started looking up some stuff about them, and coming to find out, like, their main vocalist and like basically the founder of the band, he was actually already dead. So apparently, back in 2013, they announced that he died due to acute heart failure, because he was always in poor physical condition and suffered from different issues and stuff, apparently. And part of the like reason for like the name of the band was like he was like, you know, pay money to hear about my pain, like pretty much.
Yeah.
So I was like, man, that sucks. Like he was really good. You know, the band's really good.
Yeah.
So apparently all the different members are in some other projects now, from what I was just looking at. But yeah, I wanted to make sure because that's what I looked it up. I was like, I did read that, right? Yeah, that was the case.
Yeah.
So that sucks too. Like finding out that something's really cool and being like, oh, they're gone.
Yeah, it's amazing how that works.
Yeah.
Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, this was Goblin Slayer episode 10. We're going to move on from here and see what happens next. So if y'all want to tune into that, keep tuning in. So until next time, signing off. I'm Nate.
I'm Nick.
And we'll see you in the next one, everybody. Peace out.